Good morning, everybody. Today is Friday. Woohoo! And in today's vlog, this is vlog number 6. Um, I am going to share a little bit about myself, something that some of you don't aren't aware of. Um, in one of my earlier vlogs, I mentioned that I'm confined to a wheelchair, but I never mentioned why I'm confined to a wheelchair. So if there's anybody out there wondering why I'm confined to a wheelchair, then you need to watch this vlog because I'm going to share my story. I was born on January 17th, 1975, and I was a week early. And when I was born, the doctors immediately noticed that something was not right. They did a check over, and right away, they saw I had a hole in the base of my spine, in my back. And my spinal cord, my spine and my spinal cord was exposed. And they also noticed that my spine and my spinal cord and my spine weren't fused properly. So they went back and they rushed me back to do emergency surgery to close off the hole, and they diagnosed me with spina bifida. And like I said, what spina bifida is where your spine and your spinal cord are not fused properly, and that leads to the most common effect is paralysis, which I have. I'm paralyzed from the waist down. I can't walk. And I use a wheelchair to get around when I go out in public. And at home, I just crawl around the house because our house is too small for my wheelchair, and it's not really built for it, so I don't use it. Also, on top of the hole in my back, which was about that big, maybe a little bit less, they noticed that my head was swollen. So they did some x-rays and they saw that I had fluid on the brain. And that's called hydrocephalus. Excuse me. So what they did was they put a shunt in my head. And what that does is it takes the fluid and it drains it away from the brain to relieve the pressure, and it sends it down into the abdomen. Well, some people that get shunts in their head have to get what's called a revision, which I had to have done, and that's where they just take the old one out and they replace it with a new one so that the shunt can continue doing its job. Well, when they put the shunt in, when they revised the shunt, they also did a procedure called a Chiari, and that's short for some big, huge, gigantic word that I'm not even going to try to pronounce because it's just too hard. So what the Chiari does is basically the same thing the shunt does. It's just another way for the fluid that's near my brain to drain away so that it doesn't collect there and put pressure on my brain and possibly kill me. Because if I hadn't had that done, I wouldn't be sitting here right now. So I had those things done, and I was in the hospital for a long, long time. I was probably in the hospital for I really don't know how long it was, but see, I had the shunt put in when I was born. And then I had the shunt revision done when I was 2, so that's 2 years apart. So then once the shunt revision was done and I had my hospital stay, my parents were finally able to bring me home. And, I had, as normal a childhood as any kid would. Went to school, did things. Well, around middle school, um, I began to experience times where I would get very, very sick. I would get sick often, and I was starting to have bladder infections. And if you've never had one, let me just say you don't want them because they're nasty and they're just you just don't want them. And then as time went on, the bladder infections kept getting worse and kept getting worse and kept getting worse. And I was just having them all the time, and I couldn't, it's just like they just kept coming and coming and coming. Now, what I am about to explain might get a little gross. So if you have a weak stomach, then you might not want to watch this part. My parents took me to the hospital. I had x-rays done, and they noticed that my bladder was not growing with the rest of my body. And it was shaped kind of, kind of like a triangle. And what was happening was when the urine would collect, of course my bladder at the time could only hold so much, and it was overflowing. And I was having accidents and, things like that. And the urine that didn't come out of my bladder was actually refluxing into my kidneys and making me very, very sick. So the doctors told my parents and I that the only way to solve this problem was to have surgery. And I asked the doctor, I said, well, what if I don't have the surgery? He says, you'll just keep getting sicker and sicker, and you might even die. So they scheduled the surgery, and then on October the 31st, 1990, I went in and I had the surgery done. I was in the operating room for almost 14 hours. And I stayed in the hospital from Halloween night all the way up until Thanksgiving, or before Thanksgiving. And then of course, I had the holiday. All students from school had the holiday off. So, celebrated the holidays once I healed from my surgery and got better. And then I finally went back to school after Thanksgiving. Well, I'm getting ahead of myself, but before while I was healing from my bladder surgery, what they did was to give me a new bladder, they took 1.5 feet of my small intestine. They took the old bladder out, which from what they said was hard as a rock. They took the old bladder out, then they took 1.5 feet of my small intestine, and they stretched it into a pouch. Then they sewed it in where the old bladder was. Well, for a couple weeks, I had to do bladder irrigation. And that's where they take this saline solution or something, whatever it was, I can't remember what it was, and they squirt it in with a syringe, and then they pull it back out. And that removes any mucus that might build up and cause kidney stones. So I had this done for about a couple weeks. And then eventually the doctor said that I was able to quit doing it. And then I was cleared to go back to school. So it's been about 25 years, believe it or not, that's how old I am. it's been about 25 years. I had the surgery done when I was 15. So it's been about 25 years since I've had the surgery. The bladder infections still came, but as time went on, they became less and less. And then eventually I've gotten to the point now where I don't have any at all. So I'm relatively healthy, thank God. I've had no problems. My health has increased dramatically. I don't feel sluggish anymore. I'm not getting sick as often, other than the, normal colds and stuff. But, I'm very, very, very happy that I had the surgery done. And as far as that goes, I've led a normal, healthy life. But, rewinding a little bit, I'm sorry I'm jumping all around, but I do that a lot. Rewinding back to my handicap, to my spina bifida. I'm fairly independent. I don't need a lot of assistance doing much of anything. The only thing I might need help doing is like reaching stuff that's high up, like on shelves or something. But like I said, I don't use my wheelchair in the house because the house is old, and it's just not made for wheelchairs because the doorways are real narrow and we have steps, and it's just not made for it. So anything that I need, like if I can't reach something or if I need like to eat something or whatever, my mother takes care of that. And I did have a car, but the way people drive around here, my mom just decided that, anywhere I needed to go, she'd take me and take care of that, because these roads are, people around here that drive are just nuts. But I will say that me being able to drive, I was in the 1% of all people with my disability that do not need assistance driving. The only places I couldn't drive are on major highways and interstates and things like that. So I stuck to usually just small roads, like back roads and roads that only 2 cars can go on, because I was just more comfortable driving there. But I've since quit driving because people around here are just nuts anymore. And my mom was afraid that I'd get hurt, so she told me that anywhere I needed to go, she would take me. I have endured some hardships with my disability. When I was younger, I was very, very self-conscious of it. I was made fun of. Nobody wanted to be friends with me because of it. I had teachers that wouldn't take me into their classrooms because they didn't want to deal with me. I had a student in one of my classes that I was in that told me he didn't want to be friends with me because he was afraid he would catch what I had, which spina bifida is not contagious. You can only be born with it. You can't catch it. And when I went through my high school years, it got even worse. I was picked on every day. I got to the point where, you don't have to excuse me, I might get emotional here. I got to the point where I got to the point where one day I was picked on so bad that that the weekend after the day I was picked on, I actually contemplated suicide when I was 15. So I didn't go through with it, but I I thought about it because I was just picked on so bad that day, and I couldn't couldn't go. I just couldn't deal with it. I planned out how I was gonna do it, and I was just gonna do it. But but then I I thank God I chickened out when I thought about it. I was gonna I was gonna shoot myself with a BB gun, and so I obviously didn't go through with it. And then, but then as time went on, um, things thankfully began to change. I learned to stand up for myself. I learned that I do have a voice and I knew how to use it. I thank the Lord, um, gained some really good friends who, to this day, I still have. I'm thankful for every day that I met them, because without them, I don't know what would have happened. And now, I don't care who, I don't care who wants to make fun of me. I don't care what they have to say. I don't care. I just don't care what they think of me, And I, because those are the people that made fun of me, are the people who didn't want to take the time to understand me. And the people that made fun of me and didn't want to get to know me, they missed out, because I really wanted those people, as my friends. Because who doesn't want friends in school and friends you can talk to and things like that? Well, thankfully, by the time 8th grade rolled around, I started making some friends. And, like I said, these are friends that I still have to this day. And those people know who they are. But now, I'm very independent. I'm very confident with myself. I don't let people bother me. And I'm to the point now where rather than people, rather than, letting people get to me, I would rather take the time for somebody to come up to me. If you don't know what spina bifida is, if you have questions, talk to me. Ask me. Don't just assume you know what it is. And don't just assume that just because you run into somebody who has it, don't think that your words aren't going to hurt, because they do. And I still have, not as bad as I used to, but I still have days here and there where I'm a little, just a tiny bit self-conscious of it, but I'm not as bad as I used to be. I don't let it bother me as much anymore as I used to. So if there's anybody out there who runs into somebody who has spina bifida like I do, if you're curious, ask questions. That's part of why I'm doing this video today. Because I wanted to share my story. I wanted to get it out there. And I wanted to let anybody know that watches this, now that you know that I have spina bifida, if you have any questions, ask me. If you see me out somewhere and you have questions, ask me. And I'm not sharing this story so that you'll feel sorry for me or whatever, because I don't want people to feel sorry for me. I'm not like that. I don't want anybody to come up to me and say, "Poor Mikey, you have spina bifida. What can I do?" Don't do that. I mean, yes, I have spina bifida, but I've learned to live with it. I've lived with it all my life. I'm used to it. It's just another part of my life that I've grown to accept, and I make the best of it. I might not be able to do everything that people who can walk can do. I may not be able to do the things that they can do, but I work my way around it, and I do pretty darn good, if you ask me. Oh, pardon me 1 second. I need to get a drink because my mouth is parched. Okay, anyway, okay, as I was saying, if you see me out on the street or whatever, and you know me, but you didn't know what I have, and you have questions, ask me. If you watch this video and you have questions, leave them down in the comment box below. Ask your question. I'll be happy to answer it. It's that simple. I guess that will conclude this video. I've already gone 20 minutes, which is twice what I usually do, but I just wanted to get this story out there to let you guys know a little bit about me, share what I have, what I've been through, how I've dealt with it, things like that. So if you have any questions, please comment in the box below. I'll be happy to answer any questions you have, because I would rather educate you than to leave you guessing. And also, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed yet, please click that little red button down below. Subscribe to my YouTube page. I will also leave links below to my Facebook and my Twitter, so you can contact me there. And I hope you guys have a great rest of the day, and I hope you enjoy your weekend, and I will see you tomorrow with another vlog. Peace.